All right, hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to the Woods. It's your boy Austin-Foate, and today we're going to be breaking down the NFL 2021 playoffs. Now, as you can tell, my Lions, it usually always goes like this. I don't have anything to really care about in 2021's playoffs, or really any playoffs in this past decade. Well, the Lions made one, but I have to basically jump on a new bandwagon or something, and this year I'm going to Drew Brees for the Saints, but I pretty much want to talk about the teams. I want to talk about how this playoff scenario looks, and I want to give my opinion pretty much on the wild cards, and I'll probably do this weekly until the playoffs are over. So hopefully you guys stick around and listen in and comment. Let me know what you guys think. So let's jump into the AFC. We all know, well, you might not know because this year they changed up the playoffs. They added one more team into the playoffs, and that means there's only one bye team. The Chiefs are the number one seed. They only lost 2 games this year, 14-2. They lost 1 game and lost to the Chargers, and they pretty much played the backups. They're literally insane. They have Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, and their defense is pretty average. Them being the bye team doesn't surprise me at all. The only other team I really thought would have been 1 seed in that conference would probably be the Bills, and they're the 2nd seed. So the Bills, they're playing the Colts the first week, which the Colts are the 7th seed, and we'll get to them in a minute. But the Bills have had a pretty good year. Josh Allen has been a monster. The Steelers are pretty much the opposite of the Bills. The Steelers, in my opinion, have not been the best. They've had a weaker schedule, I would say. It's going to be interesting to see when we talk about this matchup with Steelers and the Browns. I don't know who's going to win that one, to be honest.
Steelers probably will beat the Browns, but it'd be nice to see an upset. Chiefs beat out the Bills after they stump out the Colts. Derrick Henry and the Titans, I need them to beat the Ravens, and then I want them to upset the Steelers.
So the 4 teams that led their divisions was the Chiefs, the Bills, the Steelers, and the Titans. So those are the 4 teams in it. The Chiefs have the bye, and then it's the Ravens, the Browns, and the Colts. So that runs out to 7 teams in the AFC. And the NFC conference, the Packers led that one. They are practically one of the top teams in the NFL if you combine both conferences. I would say they're probably in the top 3 with the Bills and the Chiefs, but there's some competition in the NFC for sure. I would say the Saints as number 2, Seahawks as number 3. Those 2 teams probably have the best bet to probably knock off the Packers, but we'll see. Washington is number 4 seed as they won their division, and even though it was a very sloppy division this year, Washington's defense is probably one of the top defenses in the league. So if Alex Smith can get hot one game, Washington might be a team to deal with. And then the rest of the wild cards is practically the Bucks, the Rams, and the Bears. That's pretty much how the divisions or the conferences are looking right now. And I kind of want to dive into maybe some of the scenarios that could happen. I'm not going to talk too much about the Chiefs and the Packers because they both have bye weeks, but they could be matched up with a few teams that might make this game interesting. Let's talk about the games, of course, the wild card games. There's 3 games in the AFC and there's 3 games in the NFC. And how this playoff works is when this week's over, whatever team is the lowest seed will play the number 1 seed. So let's say the Browns beat the Steelers and the Bills beat the Colts. The Browns will go automatically because they're 6th seed and they're lower than everyone else. Doesn't even matter about the Titans and Ravens game. They'll play the Chiefs automatically. So that's pretty much how that's going to work. It's pretty much always been like that. Number 1 seed, number 2 seed last year when they get byes. That's pretty much how this year is going to work. I want to dive into the AFC. First game, Bills versus the Colts. This is going to be an interesting matchup. I would say the Bills are really good offensively. Based off of Sportsnaut, their defense is pretty good. And based off of statistics I read over in covers.com, they are the 2nd leading team in the NFL for offensive yards per game, which is a really big deal because the Colts started off their season really good defensively. And then the Pats, I would say since week 9, maybe week 10, they've pretty much fallen off. So it's hard to tell who the Colts are going to be defensively because they struggled a little bit later on and were really good early on. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Colts come up. Plus, Old Man Rivers really wants to win a Super Bowl. He hasn't been in a predicament like this because he's been a Charger for pretty much his whole career. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Colts come out to do. Jonathan Taylor has been a beast at running back for them. So if Philip Rivers can get the ball running, against this Bills, and Philip Rivers can throw some dimes to maybe T.Y. Hilton or Zach Pascal. It's gonna be an interesting game. But pretty much this game, the Bills shouldn't have a problem. They are really, really good with their passing game. They get most of their yards from passing. They shouldn't have anything to deal with. It should be a Bills game for sure. For this wild card game, I even would say if I'm putting money on it, I would definitely put the Bills in as a game winner for this one. The next game, the Steelers versus Browns. This one's very interesting because this is a rivalry game, same division. A lot of people say the Steelers didn't deserve to win the division. The Browns should have won the division, but we've seen throughout the year, sure, the Steelers might have a little less strength in schedule, but they still won most of their games, where Cleveland lost, I think it was 6. This game's going to be really interesting. The Browns haven't had a playoff game in a decade and a half, probably. And they really want to win because if you guys watched Week 17, the freaking fans were going absolutely nuts. So Cleveland, I feel your pain. The Lions are in the same predicament. I'm a fan of the Browns right now. I kind of want to see them beat the Steelers, and I think they probably will beat the Steelers because the Browns, they're number 16 in yards per game, which was a statistic I read off of covers.com. They are playing a team that is statistically one of the better defenses. They were ranked in the top 5. That's what Sports&Alt said. The Browns are, I would say, they're one of the weaker defenses. I think Sports&Alt said they were 13th out of the 14 teams. The Browns, what's their defense look like? It's a Myles Garrett is pretty much their strongest suit. All the Browns really need to do is get some pressure on Big Ben because he is older and he's harder for him to run around, where Baker Mayfield's running around like a dog, and the defense in the Steelers is very good. It's top 5, like I said. The thing about them is the Steelers offensively have not produced very well this year. So if the Browns are able to get their defense together, it might be a Browns game, to be honest. Let's go on to the last game of the wild card series. I think this is going to be one of the more interesting ones, the Titans versus the Ravens. Their defense is pretty much the lower dogs. The Titans are 14th out of 14th, which is really bad. They've allowed 400 yards per game. They have a quarterback average of 96, which is pretty high. So the quarterbacks have been pretty well with them. They've allowed 33 touchdowns this year passing. They've allowed like 122 yards rushing. So Titans are really, really one of the lowest defenses in the league. So they really need to step up if they want to beat the Ravens, because Lamar Jackson is definitely a fast guy. He's very mobile, and he has an arm, as we've seen before. The Ravens and the Titans are going to be an interesting battle. The Ravens were ranked 19th in the year for offensive yards. Seahawks were kind of mid again. Titans are actually one of the higher rated offensive leaders. I can't believe I messed that up because Derrick Henry is literally the king, and he is amazing. He went 2,000 yards rushing. The Titans did most of their work on the ground, but Ryan Tannehill can do work in the air. He has a valuable amount of weapons. He has Corey Davis, he has A.J. Brown, he has a few other receivers that are pretty notable. This is going to be a dogfight, I think. This could be something I would bet maybe on an over, because I think this might be a shootout game. Like score-wise, it could be over 60 points for both teams. But in conclusion with this game, it's going to be an interesting game. And I personally want the Titans to win because I love my guy, Derrick Henry. He's probably my favorite football player in the league. I just kind of want to see the Titans win. And if this scenario ends out how it should, I should expect the Bills to play the Titans and the Browns to play the Chiefs. Go into the NFC now, where the NFC is probably going to be a little more predictable, in my opinion, than the AFC, but teams have proved me wrong in the past. The Titans last year were 9-7, and I did not think they'd make it to the championships, or their conference championships. So we're going to see what happens here. But the first game I want to talk about is the Saints and the Bears. The Bears, I don't know. I don't really know what to say about them because I practically hate the Bears. Part of me is like, how did they make it here? I have to give credit to where it's due. Their defense is pretty good, and their offense is pretty bad. So it depends on if Mitch Trubisky actually plays like he was supposed to. If Allen Robinson and David Montgomery go off, because they are prone to go off and then not. It depends if their defense can stop Drew Brees, because this is pretty much Drew Brees' final season, and he wants to go out with a bang. He wants that ring, and he wants to put a legacy on his own as someone who went out with a bang like Peyton Manning. So the running game of the Saints have been really dominant this year, and that's mostly because Drew Brees was hurt for a little bit, and Taysom Hill came in. Hill became a really big asset for their team, especially after Drew Brees went down. So the Saints, they should win this game. I don't see how the Bears would. The only way is if the Bears shut them down. I want to go on to the Seahawks and the Rams. Pretty much this game should be a big game. Seahawks have showed me plenty of times that they can choke, but the Rams have also done that too. They're the team that lost first to the Jets. So do the Rams deserve to even be here? Who knows? They had a running back committee all year. Jared Goff is just Jared Goff. We all know he's average. He could show up to be a Joe Flacco. Who knows? Russell Wilson is always someone that's doing very well. His running back core is great. His receiving core is amazing. DK Metcalf's one of my favorite players in the league, so he's definitely going to have some options in the passing game. The whole Seahawks organization should just beat up on the Rams, even though the Rams have the best defense, in my opinion, with their secondary. So it's going to have to be on the ground maybe for the Seahawks this game. DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett are going to have to get open if they want to help the Seahawks passing game, because Russell Wilson's not going to be able to throw against Jalen Ramsey. That's my take on that game. It should be the Seahawks, but again, we'll see. And then the last game I want to talk about, which is probably my favorite matchup within the NFC, is the Washington football team and the Tampa Bay Bucks. Old man Tom is with the Bucks, and he has probably the most outstanding receiving core in the league. And then you have Washington, who has Alex Smith, who's our comeback player of the year. And he has Antonio Gibson, who just came out of nowhere and just became a dog. And then he has a receiving core who's actually not bad, like Terry McLaurin, who can pretty much do anything for him. We have to also respect the defenses for both teams. Tampa Bay is probably above average, and Washington's probably one of the best. That defensive line is outstanding, and the addition of Chris Young shows why they deserve to win their division. What do I think about this game? Washington is a team to be, I wouldn't say afraid of, but to watch, because they could prove us all wrong and actually beat Tom Brady. Because if they can absolutely mess up the O-line for the Tampa Bay Bucks, Tom Brady's going to be pressured all day. It might be a good matchup with the receivers. I'm not too sure. Tampa Bay has such good receiving core that it doesn't really matter if you match up one guy with one, the other two and the tight end are all going to be open. So it's just Tampa Bay offensively is so dominant right now that Washington needs to do everything up front, and Alex Smith needs to actually produce. Sadly, I don't think the defense is going to win the game. I think it's probably going to be the Bucks, but this is probably my most unsure game out of all.
The Packers obviously have a first week bye, so not a whole lot to report there. And then the Saints versus Bears. Oh, I hope that's a smackdown. I just hope the Bears get absolutely maimed by Drew Brees. They're gonna lose obviously, but I want to see a sweep, like a 35-point shutdown. Seahawks, Rams. I don't really know. I'll just leave that to a coin flip.
But if everything happens how I think it should, Bucks should play the Packers, and then the Seahawks will play the Saints. So that is pretty much what I think is going to happen. Thank you to my sources, SportsNalt and Covers.com. That's all we have to do with for the all the matchups and such. I want to shout out Viget, as Viget is a free way to sports bet. It's a very great platform if you want to use online currency, which is Viget coins, and bet on games through their spread, their total, their money line. It's pretty much just like sports betting, but just on this platform. It's really easy to sign up. All you got to do is go to the app, put your phone number in, they'll shoot you a message to confirm it. Profile pic, whatever your name. And then at the end of that, definitely throw in, it's going to ask you a code to put in, a referral code. Throw in Woods, WOODS, and definitely help us out as we're looking to get some people into our betting league. And if you want to get into our betting league, it's right on the bottom tab. It should be the second option, betting leagues. Join private league and type in bet553 and you can get into our betting league. We have a pretty decent league going on right now. If you're looking to get into a competitive betting league where all you got to do is bet with Viget coins, and the more you win with your bets, the more up you go in the leaderboards. I think we're going to be doing a prize this month for January. To end off this show, I want to pretty much talk about what I might be doing for this week for bets. So we'll go to the Colts and the Bills. They have a spread. It's definitely the Bills minus 6.5. I probably, if I'm going to take anything in this game, it's probably going to be the spread for the Bills, in my opinion. If you're feeling risky and you think the Colts are going to win, maybe their spread. But that's pretty much it for me for this episode of talking about the NFL week for the wild card. I've dove into the playoffs. I dove into what it should look. Maybe, I wouldn't even say should, but might look like. I talked about what the playoffs are this year because it's new. And I gave some information about both conferences. If you have any input on this, I definitely want to hear about what you guys think about this year. Wild card, it's going to be an interesting battle. I'm very interested to see what the Chiefs and the Packers are going to do because it could be any of these 6 teams they verse. Well, not really. They can't verse the Bills ever in this scenario, or they can't verse the Saints ever in this scenario, but well, at least in the next round. That's pretty much it for me, guys. Hopefully you guys were stayed tuned. Definitely check out our social medias. We're on practically everything, and do look forward to another video about next week, and let's see if my predictions were anything correct, because that'd be really funny if every single team I thought was going to win lost. All right, we'll catch you guys later. Peace.